India's startup scene is world famous, right? For delivering pretty much anything you want to your door in minutes. But there's this huge debate bubbling up. Is that really the end goal? Today, we're going to dig into India's super ambitious pivot away from consumer convenience toward a future built on some seriously foundational, deep technology. So this question from India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal really just lit a fire. And look, this wasn't some off-the-cuff comment. It was a direct challenge to the country's amazing startup scene, and it kicked off a massive conversation about where things are headed. Okay, so what was the minister really getting at here? Well, it's basically a tale of two very different tech ecosystems. And to get why India is shifting its strategy so hard, we first need to understand what its success has looked like up until now. Yeah, and this slide just lays it out so clearly. Over here, you've got India's absolute dominance in consumer tech. We're talking Zomato, Flipkart, the game-changing UPI payment system. And don't get me wrong, these are huge achievements. But then you look at China's playbook, and you see global giants in foundational industries. BYD in EVs, DJI in drones, SMIC in semiconductors. This is the exact gap he was talking about. And the money, well, it tells the same story. In 2023, nearly 60% of all startup funding in India went straight into consumer tech, fintech, and software as a service. Now, that's great and all, but it means all that capital is basically steering clear of the tougher, riskier, but way more transformative path of deep tech. So how is India responding? Well, they're not just tinkering around the edges with policy. Nope, this is a massive, all-in national push to build a totally new kind of tech foundation. All right, so let's be clear. What is deep tech anyway? It's not about the next delivery app, that's for sure. We're talking about companies born from real, fundamental scientific and engineering breakthroughs. Things like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, next-gen materials, the stuff that powers entire industries. And why is this such a big deal? Well, because if you can't build your own foundational tech, you're in a really vulnerable spot. I mean, think about it. If you can't make your own essential parts, you're totally dependent on someone else's supply chain. This is why the government's new national deep tech startup policy calls this a national imperative. It's about security, it's about self-reliance, and it's about turning India into a real knowledge economy. And look, this isn't just a bunch of fancy words on paper. India is putting serious money where its mouth is with these huge, high-stakes national missions. They're trying to build this new ecosystem from the ground up. Okay, first up, semiconductors, the absolute bedrock of everything digital, right? So to tackle this, India's put a massive, and I mean massive, $10 billion incentive plan on the table. The goal, build a domestic chip industry. And that ambition doesn't stop with chips. Next up is AI. The India AI mission has a budget of over 10,000 crore rupees. That is a huge statement of intent to be a global player in AI. A huge piece of the AI puzzle is just raw computing power. So the government has already rolled out 38,000 GPUs. These are the specialized chips you need for AI, and they're making them affordable and accessible for Indian startups and researchers. And India's not just focused on today. They're making a big bet on tomorrow with quantum tech. Yeah, the National Quantum Mission is this 8-year, $750 million push to get ahead in what could be the next massive technological leap. Okay, what's so cool about this is that you can see the AI strategy isn't just one single thing. The whole India AI mission is built on these 7 pillars. It covers everything from getting the computers, to managing data, to skilling people up, and even funding startups. It's a whole ecosystem approach. And it's the same story with the quantum mission. It's super organized. It's all built around these 4 main hubs, each led by a powerhouse institution like IISc Bangalore or IIT Madras. And each one focuses on a different piece of the puzzle: quantum computing, communication, sensing, and materials. It's all about specialized, coordinated work. Okay, so the ambition is huge, the funding is there, but let's get real for a second. Execution is a whole other ballgame. We have to talk about the very real, very big hurdles India has to overcome to make this a reality. First up, and this is a big one, is R&D spending. This chart, it doesn't pull any punches. You can see India invests about 0.64% of its GDP in R&D. Now, compare that to China at around 2.4%. That is a massive gap. But the problems go way beyond just the overall R&D budget. There's a huge gap when it comes to actually making advanced hardware. The private sector isn't investing enough in R&D, and there's a real shortage of people with the right skills. And on top of all that, this kind of tech needs patient capital, investors willing to wait a long time for a return. And that's hard to find. Plus, you've always got to deal with red tape. This quote right here, from a report on the quantum mission itself, just brings the hardware problem into sharp focus. It basically says that making the most advanced stuff completely in India, well, it's still just a dream. And that really highlights how dependent the country still is.
So, with all these challenges, you have to ask, how can India even hope to compete? And it looks like the answer is you don't play their game. You write your own playbook. Which leads us to the big question, right? Given that India is focusing on older chip technology and got a bit of a late start, is this all just a game of catch-up that they're bound to lose?
Well, the thinking is no. Actually, no. This isn't seen as a compromise. It's seen as a very clear, deliberate strategy. Instead of chasing the tiniest, most advanced chip that costs a fortune, India's focusing on what its own huge market and, frankly, the rest of the world really needs today. So what's in this new playbook? What makes it different? Well, for one, it's all about resilience and being self-reliant, not just winning the nanometer race. It's about building the entire ecosystem, from design all the way to manufacturing, not just dropping a few factories here and there. And critically, it's targeting the massive global demand for those reliable, established chips that go into cars and medical gear and all sorts of other things. And all of this is built on top of its incredible digital public infrastructure. And that leaves us with one last huge question. Can India really move beyond the shopkeeping world of delivery apps? Can it overcome all these hurdles and build its future on the solid foundation of deep tech? The race is definitely on, and the plan is in motion. We'll have to see how it plays out.